businesses, farming, and other industries. And so we commit our day into your hands and pray this in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Councillor Jones is absent on council business due to her attendance at the Coast to Coast conference in Cairns. Councillor Ballard is an apology for today's meeting. And I think that's about it. Are there condolences, Councillor? Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to extend condolences to the family of the late Don Wall, a well-known local identity who passed away on the 14th of July, just short of his 91st birthday. Don was the eldest child of Dan and Bertha Wall, followed by siblings Joyce, Beryl and Mick, and all were raised in the family home in Gregory Street. School was never high on Don's priorities, and when the opportunity came to spend time working with his grandfather, Bez Mackay, with whom he was very close, he seized the opportunity. Some of his work involved driving herds of cattle from Nebo down the Eaton Range to the holding yards at Eaton. The family believes this was the beginning of Don's involvement with cattle. As soon as Don was able, he commenced an apprenticeship with Kemp's Bushery. It was during his apprenticeship, when Don was delivering meat to the McGill household, that he noticed Gloria, who was later to become his wife. He and Gloria produced 2 sons, Russell and Brent, and there are many who will recall Don and Gloria's hospitality at their home in Mockford Street. During this time, Don purchased McBride's butcher shop in West Mackay, and hence his business career commenced. Don was a very progressive thinker and fought to allow his shop to open on Saturday mornings. So whilst he worked tirelessly to fulfil a contract with the Australian Army at Colston Park, his perseverance was rewarded, and butcher shops were finally given the go-ahead to open on Saturday mornings. Don then went on to pull the old butcher shop down in West Mackay and replaced it with a brand new shop, which set the benchmark for all butcher shops in Mackay and Queensland. He was a leading retailer of meat in Mackay, and this gave him the opportunity to open 2 new shops, one in Mount Pleasant and one in Canelands. He also owned Minette Downs cattle property and was able to supply his own meat to supply his shops. Don hosted the Mackay Show Carcass competition at his butcher shop in 1961. The interest generated helped to convince the state government at that time to construct Bakers Creek Abattoir in 1965. In 1966, Don was elected to the Mackay City Council, polling the highest number of votes ever recorded up to that time as an individual. During the time he served as a councillor, he was chairman of Town Planning, Health and General Purpose Committee, and also chairman of the Finance Committee. He also represented council on Mackay Harbour Board and the Mackay District Abattoir Board. For the last 2 terms of his term in council, of his term in council, he served as Deputy Mayor. From the 1950s, Don travelled to numerous country towns and major regional towns as guest speaker at government and industry-sponsored field days, and was invited to judge the beef cattle section at 2 Royal Brisbane shows. He was also an advisor to the Government Committee for Cattle and Meat on all aspects of the industry, particularly the retailing of meat products. Don was involved in many community organisations for over 50 years, spending 35 years on the Mackay Red Shield Committee, and in 1972 was responsible for the launching of the Red Shield Appeal. He served over 50 years as a member of Mackay West Rotary Club, having held all positions of office, and was rewarded with a Paul Harris Fellowship in 1978. He was involved in many other community organisations, 40 years on the Beef Cattle Committee of the Mackay Show, patron of the Mackay Show Society for over 20 years, 30 years on the Mackay Amateur Club Committee, including 11 years as president. In 1986, Don was awarded a member of the British Empire, which was a just acknowledgement for his many years' involvement in the cattle industry, of which he was justifiably proud. As you have heard, Don's achievements were many and varied during his time both in business and within his community. And I certainly have my own memories of being served across the counter by Don. And I'm guessing there are many, many more out there in our community who would share the same memories. Don has left us, leaving his mark on both his chosen career and within his community. And Mackay is a better place for having Don Wall as one of our residents and businessmen. So on behalf of Mackay Regional Council, I'd like to extend our sincere condolences to Don's family.
Thank you, Councillor Townsend. Well said, and certainly a great citizen of our region. It's sad to mark Don's passing, and those words were really well said. Thank you. Are there further condolences? No further condolences? Are there any conflicts of interest to declare today? No conflicts of interest. Thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of the 14th of July. They've been circulated. Would somebody like to move that they be adopted? Councillor Bonaventura moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. We'll note the items included on pages 5 through 7, which were 5 through 8, 9 actually, which were responses to questions taken on notice at the last meeting of the council, and we'll note those in the minutes out of this one.
Make a comment if I could. Just a comment, Your Worship, in relation to them.
No, there's no comments. You can't make a comment. The only comments that can be made are in response to these as they go out. So there's no really opportunity in making a comment around the confirmation as in including in these minutes. So it's not a motion. We're just confirming that they're included in these minutes. So there's no opportunity for a comment, but you can do that at a later date in terms of if it raises itself in one of the reports, Councillor Bonaventura. All right. Okay, so let's move on then. Business arising. There's no mirror minutes. So let's move on to the consideration of committee reports and recommendations. And correspondence and officers' reports. The Office of the Mayor and CEO for the Strategic Financial Report for the month of June. CEO.
Thank you. So we're still finalising the end of year financials, but we're expecting a $6.5 million surplus, or that sort of order of magnitude, recognising we're still processing end of years, but most of the large adjustments have been made. If you look across the year, you can sort of see there's a tale of really two line items in there. So on the revenue side, there have been swings and roundabouts throughout the year, but we're roughly in line with where we set out in the budget 12 months ago. So things like plumbing inspections have been up, developer application charges have been up. That's sort of been offset by things like the waste disposal charges and things like that. So there have been swings and roundabouts in there, but revenues roughly been in line from the original budget. The two line items which have been there's been significant variance, is the depreciation line, so that's about $9 million. And councillors will probably recall that we're in the middle of a revaluation when the budget went through last time, so we were adopting the depreciation figures before the reval was done and taken up, which led to lower depreciation charges. And that's been about roughly $9 million. And there's probably, since the reforecast in March, there's probably about a $2.9 million variance since then. The other major line item, materials and services, and that is roughly about $9 million as well. So that's come in under budget. That's made up of a whole host of items in there. So things like we've had savings on electricity of about 700K, on chemicals and fuels, 700 odd K as well. Because of COVID, travel and accommodation, things like that have been down about 350K. So we're still doing the work and we're still doing the analysis into those categories, and I'll be able to report back after we've done that analysis. And that would be the other large line item where there was an adjustment from the reforecast in March to where we ended up at the end of the financial year. From the reforecast in March as well, there were some adjustments or variances on the revenue side, mainly due to increased sales in MEC revenue and things like that. So that's sort of a high-level summary of where we're seeing that the budget or the end of financial year actuals will end. As I said, we're still trying to finalise. In relation to the CapEx, that's come in at 88 odd million, and again, that's way under what we budgeted. And as we flagged at the last council meeting, we've got an external review into our CapEx program, again, to help us improve for this financial year, and happy to take any questions.
Thanks, CEO. Questions for the CEO? Councillor Bonaventura.
Your Worship, page 12, the bottom of the conclusion section, it speaks about projects with multi-year delivery being carried over. So can I ask, will projects not started at the end of the financial year continue to happen, or will they be reviewed and have to prove that they still need to occur?
CEO.
At this stage, they're carryovers. They're carryovers from last financial year.
Right, so they'll continue.
Darwin.
If I can, page 16, I note under areas of concern, one of the notes says that tightened market conditions and sourcing of materials and equipment could negatively impact the capital delivery program. So that's a statement. Can I ask, do staff take this possibility into account when forecasting our ability to deliver the capital program? And if yes, can I get some detail around their assumptions? And if not, can I ask why not, when it clearly is stated in the report that this is a risk?
Yes, we do take it into account, so we are updating, and as tenders come in from the market, depending on what we learn from those in terms of where the external market's moving, we then adopt those into our forecast going forward. So yes, we do that. As for the second part of the question, I'd have to find out what sort of difference we're at the moment from when we set budget to the starting line, if you like.
That would be good if I could. And one more, if I may, Your Worship. Page 27, there's a graph, 5.1, statement of cash flows, and there's a line that says borrowing costs of 7.9 million. Can I get some explanation of what that's involved?
I will take that one on notice.
Yeah, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay. Would somebody like to move the reports? Councillor May move, seconded by Councillor Engler. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. As we've just heard the overview from the CEO, there's just a couple of things that I will recap on. So councillors will remember at the start of this financial year, we were forecasting a $2.6 million deficit for the financial year. And through savings and increase in revenue, and you'll see in the report there, that totals $5.6 million. So that's an increase to the council statements, so in our favour of $5.6 million. So that's really been brought about by the increase in revenues from fees and charges, the increase in or the decrease in expenses. We heard the CEO mention the $88.5 million capital program that has been being delivered, and there will be carryovers from that. I think if we cast our mind back to the start of this financial year when we were putting together this budget, nobody really knew what we were going to encounter as far as deliverables. And we know that in our capital program, a lot of that is around the plant and the fleet and the procurement. And we've had significant problems in procuring some of those items, as well as building supplies for other parts of the capital program. So that's sort of contributed quite a bit to not being able to meet our capital program over the 12 months. The significant risks have been outlined, so we've been doing a comprehensive review of assets of council through the data cleansing process and revaluation of assets, and that's had a significant effect on our bottom line in our favour, which is really, really great to be able to report on. So decreasing our depreciation enables us to increase our surplus, which is really good. We've mentioned about the decrease in expenditure and the delays in some of the projects. And the areas of concern and for noting, we still are not to this day through the COVID-19 experience, and we've seen, as we have in the last couple of months, things can change overnight. You go to bed 1 minute and you wake up the next day and half of the country's in lockdown. So that will continue to play a significant role in council being able to deliver on its budget throughout the forthcoming year as well. So just a couple of other things for noting there. $15 million has been paid down over the last 12 months of our council debt, leaving us with a balance of $118 million. We have a very healthy cash at call and investment account of $194 million. And as a Category 5 council, our rating arrears, the current balance is approximately $9.9 million. And that's quite significant because we are well below, we are doing far better, I'll put it that way, we're doing far better than other Category 5 councils in being able to recover our rates and keeping our rate arrears at a minimum. So I think that all goes to the processes that have been put in place and the execution by the staff of working with our ratepayers to be able to get plans in place to enable them to meet their commitments. So I think overall, given the year that we've had, the difficulties that we've had to deal with, I congratulate the CEO and the staff directors in being able to turn around our deficit and have us in a surplus position. And we're still going to deliver those capital programs that have been accounted for in this budget into the next financial year. So I think a good result.
Thank you very much. Councillor May, speaker against? Are there any other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura speaking for?
Thank you, Your Worship, yes. I'm happy to support this report, but I must say I'm disappointed that we got it so wrong when we originally budgeted for a $5 million deficit. Through budget revisions, we amended this to a $2.6 million deficit in March. Then 1 month ago when we did the budget, we anticipated a $1.5 million surplus. Now we're anticipating $6.5 million surplus. Yes, I know, we don't have a crystal ball and things change, but this is an $11.5 million turnaround in 12 months. I would like to think that when we strike a budget that is 82% funded by ratepayers, that we need to get it right. They handed over their money to provide us with services to the community, but not to put $6.5 million in the bank. The other disappointing item was on page 14, with our lower than anticipated spend on council projects, and I quote from the report, to date, $88.5 million has been expended on council projects and includes associated operational expenditure, and in the delivery of these projects representing only 81.5% of the annual revised budget. I would have hoped for a better result in this area, and I would like to think that we as a council can do a lot better this year. I would like to thank staff for their detail in the report. It's easy to read and it gave me all the material I needed to see, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bonaventura. Councillor Green, speaking for?
Speaking for, thank you, Your Worship. I'm disappointed to hear the word disappointed mentioned so many times by Councillor Bonaventura. I do appreciate his comments, but in a normal year, I think those comments are valid. But heading into the previous financial year, the full impact of the unprecedented level of carnage the COVID-19 virus was having on a global scale was beginning to be felt. Indeed, the word unprecedented was used an unprecedented number of times to give weight to what was going on around us. This council prepared to bring down a budget reflecting a $5 million deficit in anticipation of the unpredictable year ahead. Directors were asked to batten down the hatches in their departments, and further austerity measures were to be taken in a council that had already stripped the fat out of the organisation. Yet here we are today with the strategic financial report reporting a year-to-date variance of $5.6 million and suggesting an actual operating result of $6.5 million surplus, a long way from the original budget forecast of a $5 million deficit, that's granted. But who on earth could have predicted not only the Queensland bubble but the Mackay bubble that cushioned us this past year? I was hopeful I might pick up a bargain as I was in the market for a home. Boy, was I wrong. The rental market constricted to below 1% and property prices soared. Building and development took off at a rapid pace, the likes we see only during a mining boom. This resulted in council having an unexpected revenue increase in plumbing inspections and development application fees and charges. This bubble also enabled us to kickstart our hospitality and entertainment centre. The MEC held the first COVID-safe, fully in-person convention in all of Australia in October 2020, and has only gone on from strength to strength since. MEC ticket sales are another contributing factor to the budget surplus, as in the report, and an indicator of the confidence of the local and wider community to attend events in Mackay during these times. Both our water and waste services have reported favourable variances, and a better than expected depreciation value in our favour has improved our bottom line. Ideally, we would prefer our capital projects expenditure to sit at least over 90%, with this report reflecting only 81.5% delivered. Yet again, we need to reflect on the year that we've just had, an unprecedented year. This result does put pressure on delivering this financial year's capital expenditure program. Yet again though, the unexpected impacts of COVID-19 explain why this is so, and we face a continued risk in project delivery due to the shortage of resources and materials across our building and civil construction firms, not only felt in Mackay but around Australia and I believe around the world. Whilst Mackay was fortunate enough to recently host 14,000 people at the GNS Engineering Wide and Food Day, and we've been picked up by the NRL to host 2 National Rugby League games, millions of Australians are in lockdown, and the spectre of COVID-19 remains ever present. We are fortunate to have ended the financial year of 2021 in a strong financial position, because this best prepares us if the tide of COVID-19 should turn against us. I'd personally like to thank the CEO, the directors and the staff who took these austerity measures they were asked to find, who continue to be under the pump to process development applications and complete inspections, who look for alternatives in resources and supplies to deliver our capital projects and keep costs down, and who developed the COVID-safe plans and pivoted their departments and people to ensure the show must go on. Your ingenuity and hard work is reflected in this strategic financial report we have before us today.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Any other speakers? Councillor England, Speaker 4.
Thank you, Worship. I'm not disappointed either. I don't measure the staff performance on their ability to read crystal balls, use Ouija boards or tarot cards. I measure their performance on their ability to react to what happens to them at any particular point in time, any day of the week, including COVID, the weather and the psychology of developers who decide when they are going to put in their applications and increase our revenue or decrease it for us. Councillors have had several meetings with the CEO and the officers over a very long period of time. There are no surprises here. They've kept us up to date and been completely transparent in every way to us. We knew what was coming. And I congratulate the officers on winning during a time when other councillors are not winning. And so thank you to them. And I look forward to seeing what they come up with the next time they're hit with a year such as this.
Thank you very much, Councillor England. Are there any other speakers? Councillor England?
Yeah, I might just say a word in my right of reply. Look, I think fellow councillors have mentioned that this is not a disappointing result. If anything, it is a great result. We're in a very strong position going into the next financial year. We've outlined the variables. Depreciation plays a huge part in the result that we've got in revaluing those assets and making sure that we're getting that part of our story right. As we know, council is an asset-heavy driven business, and the more that we refine our asset management and our valuations on our assets, that gauge between the budget when it's brought down in June of the previous year to when it's delivered 30 June in the next year will become better. You know, the better we get at that asset management, the better that we will close that gap. And as Councillor Green said, the unpredictable period that we find ourselves in is not being dealt with before. It is across all councils in Queensland and Australia. We've never had to deal with a pandemic. There's been ups and downs and swings and roundabouts, and we've asked our staff to do and deliver the best that they possibly can for the Mackay region ratepayers and residents, and I believe they've done that. They've, as Councillor Green said, they've bunkered down and they've executed the plan. There's been some variables. They've always come and consulted with council along those variables along the way, and I think it's a great result.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? There you go. The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.1.2 is the operational plan quarterly report for the fourth quarter, CEO.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to again highlight a good, strong performance through the operational report and the status reporting. Of the 106 items in there, we are behind on about 18, but when I say behind, a number of those are due to COVID, so doing certain marketing campaigns for tourism doesn't make sense in the COVID campaign. In terms of some of the HR, we're coming at it a better way through the staff engagement, through the staff training that we're rolling out. So again, very pleased with the results that we're getting and we're achieving there, and truly behind on very few things. So, thank you.
Thanks very much, CEO. Questions? Councillor Bonaventura.
I note in the initiative under our culture that has been deferred. As we have more time, will we use this opportunity to engage more widely with our staff to achieve a better result? I just think there's an advantage in that issue that we've deferred that. Under our
which page are you on?
I didn't cut the page out, the number. In the section that weren't successful or that we were behind on.
Page 6 or 7, in the actions of below target.
Actions below target.
Page 8.
Page 44 of the agenda, bottom of page 44 and the start of page 45. Yeah, page 8 on the current report, bottom of page 8. But we are at 0% at the moment, and I just see that that's a great advantage to continue to sort of engage widely with staff, because it is people and culture, that is our people, and I assume that that's what we will use that for, CEO.
Generally we've got, we're very much engaging with staff. We had our staff engagement plan rollout. We have the results in through the month of July and August. We're actually going back and we're feeding back to staff all of those engagement results, the good and the bad and the improvement, and we're taking on board a number of those comments from those comments, and that feedback will then turn those into action improvement plans. So yes, we're out consulting widely with staff.
Thank you.
And I thought it would have been fairly well self-explanatory. We were doing that high-level values review, which includes all that consultation. So it doesn't.
Again, through you as well as the staff engagement, we are rolling out and refreshing our values and behaviours. So the senior leadership team have recently met with the ELT, and we're actually got a plan in terms of how we go out and engage with staff. And there are a number of workshops that are being scheduled in with staff in relation to the values and behaviours at the moment.
Thank you.
Further questions? No further questions. Would somebody like to move the operational quarterly review for the fourth quarter? Councillor May moves. Councillor Mann seconds. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship.
As the CEO mentioned, there is 86 actions that are completed and only 18 that are below the target, and one action did not require reporting on in this quarter. Just some of the high-level highlights, as this is our final quarter report for the last financial year. So it's good to see that safety continues to be a heavy focus for the council operations, and our performance and lead indicators are very positive in that area. Our level of external funding being able to be received has been boosted out of the sequence of special COVID funding from both the state and the federal government. So that enables the council to deliver many on-ground community projects. Our planning and design works for the major projects of the Mirani precinct and the Northern Beaches Community Hub are continuing to be planned and managed going forward. Council, as we've said in the previous report, Council continues to spend a lot of time on their assets, and our unsealed road maintenance underpins that part of that work as well, and our assessment on a biennial basis through the Road Asset Condition Assessment System has been undertaken. We've had a big focus in the last few months on the Midge Point water quality, and it's really good to see that the projects have been identified and addressing to that water problem we have there. Our capital works had a huge focus in the last quarter. There's a number of projects that are either underway or have been completed in the last quarter. To note is the illegal dumping partnership through the grant program funded by the state government. We've seen a significant decrease in our illegal dumping. We've seen an increase in our ability to be able to recover the cost of that dumping and actually execute fines and work with the people that have been doing the dumping to actually rectify that. So, and of course, we've taken that into account in our budget and actually going to continue to fund that officer going forward. And it's also good to see that the MEC has been able to come out of a year that's been highly disastrous, I suppose, as far as arts and culture and events and entertainment goes, to be now increasing their revenue, and we heard that in the operational, the financial reports as well. But on the other side of that, it is really fantastic for the community to have access to a facility such as the MEC and to be able to attend some of those live performances.
Thank you very much, Councillor May. Speaker against? Any other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.1.3, councillors, I've registered to go to the Asia Pacific Summit. Which was a couple of years ago. I went to that one, and the reason for putting this up is the Wednesday is the Mayor's Forum, and so I won't be able to attend the council meeting that day. So that's just an explanation of what's happening. It's very valuable. There's the last one I went to, there were about 80 mayors from around the South Pacific region, including most from Queensland. But it's quite a valuable day. So, are there any questions? Would somebody like to move the adoption? Councillor Engler moves, seconded by Councillor Mann. Any discussion? Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Development Services monthly review for June 2021. So, Director, usual. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Worship. And I'm pleased to present the Development Services monthly report for June. So there's been a bit of discussion about this already, but the Development Services budget did end in a surplus, and a significant contribution to this was from development-related applications. So this does reflect and confirm the ongoing high level of development activity that we have seen in the region. The majority of works in Fifth Lane have been completed. A place plan will be developed to pursue opportunities to activate this area now of the city centre. Development Services had a strong presence at this year's Mackay show. There was a stall manned by the Natural Environment team about the free plant giveaway. The Mackay City Centre and Waterfront team had a stall asking people what they thought about the city centre, and there was a Hooked on Mackay stand and also a Serena Sugar Shed stand, just to name a few. Everyone involved enjoyed having the opportunity to engage with show attendees, and overall council's displays and stalls were well received. Work on the aquatic weeds at the Botanic Gardens Lagoon continues, and while we wait for the outcome of the desilting trial, we continue to pursue other avenues to clear weed from the lagoon. A long-arm excavator has cleared a large section of the lagoon weed, and spraying of the weed is continuing. And so while we're on the Botanic Gardens Open Day was held on Saturday the 5th of June. It was a great event as always and well attended. 2 events were supported by Council through its Invest Mackay Events and Conference Attraction Program in June. These were the Queensland Association of State School Principals Conference and the Mackay Marina Run. And lastly, consultants BMI Business Models Inc. have been engaged to undertake the distillery operations pre-feasibility study for the Serena Sugar Shed. The feasibility will be undertaken over 8 weeks, and the kick-off meeting was held earlier this week with the consultants, and it was attended by myself, the Manager of Economic Development and the CEO.
Thanks, Director. Questions for the Director? Councillor Green.
Yes, an estimated time frame for the popular Skywalk play equipment to be repaired in Queen's Park?
Quick question, Director.
Yes, thank you, Worship. I don't have an update on that right now, so I'll have to take that on notice and see where we're at with negotiations with the manufacturer.
Thank you.
Further questions, Councillor Mann.
Just in relation to page 94, the foreign object in the person's eye after they went home from work. Firstly, were they wearing safety glasses? And secondly, that's not the first time this has been reported, that someone got a foreign object in their eye when they were wearing safety glasses. are the safety glasses fit for purpose that we're issuing?
Director, can we answer that? Or?
Yes, Your Worship. So the person was working in a dusty environment, and so over time the dust appears to have worked its way into the safety glasses. We have been looking at, and I think trialling some alternative safety glasses which fit better on the sides of a person's face. So we'll see how they go.
Okay. Thank you. Further questions? No further questions? Somebody would like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Englert moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Councillor Englert.
Thank you, Worship. As previously discussed, those pesky developers have decided to put all their applications in at once, giving a surplus to this program. Finchatton and Youngler Township local planning framework is ongoing, and they're continuing with the consultation and master planning of Finchatton and Youngler for the mountain bike project. The Northern Beaches Community Hub Master Plan is ongoing, and I believe they've been meeting consistently. But as the Director mentioned, the Riverside Realm upgrade, the design for the area between Paxton's and the Fish Market have been finalised, and construction will be starting later on this year, as well as the designs for the upgrade of the intersection located at River Street, Sydney Street, to improve pedestrian and cycling safety along the Blue Water Trail, and they've now been finalised. But I also want to just mention the work that the Natural Environment projects have been doing over the last month. The Mackay Show, the static display about the free plant giveaway program was provided at the Mackay Show. There was the open day at the Botanical Gardens, where a local native plant information store was provided. And the National Tree Day site for 2021 has been confirmed as the Blue Water Trail, just east of the Roncam Bridge. And the school's Tree Day will be held on Friday, 30th July. National Tree Day is on the 1st of August. And interestingly, I didn't realise that our staff were involved in this. The Grass Tree Beach races, the staff were engaged in protecting the sand dunes. As a previous viewer of this event, I remember sitting up on the dunes, so they actually put up protection and took it down again after the event to ensure that we have no erosion in that area. The Director mentioned the desilting project. The contractor believes that only one more test for leachate out of that will be required before moving forward with a better understanding of that project. And in particular, the performance of the sugar shed is something to be commended over the last month. With revenue reaching almost 85,000, tour visitation up 13%, ticket revenue up 25%, retail revenue up 23%, total income up 23%, total expenses 3% below target. And they've been accepted by the Tourism Australia to participate in the Australian Tourism Exchange 2021, the largest tourism event, trade event in the country. And there has been strong interest in Serena Sugar Shed from the domestic buyers who are pivoting to the domestic market and searching for authentic local experiences to include in their programs. And finally, as I just mentioned, don't forget National Tree Day events on the 30th and the July and 1st of August. And then later on in the 20th, 21st of August, we have the free native plant giveaway days. Great report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Angus. Speaker against. Any other speakers?
Thank you.
Councillor Bonaventura.
I'd just like to note the number of approved development assessments, notice applications for the year is sitting at just under 250 and continuing to grow. And this is well above the same time last year when we were around 180. So this is another positive sign of showing the high level of confidence in the Mackay economy. I'd like to also thank the Director for the update on our economic indicators as we have received the employed person status, showing that it's keeping basically very, very stable. We still have no further data on the real estate and residential lot supply, etc. So I look forward to that getting updated at some time in the near future. Thank you, Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. Are there other speakers? Councillor May, speaking for.
Yes, thank you very much, Worship. I really just wanted to make a couple of comments around the development applications and in particular the Padgett area. I don't know whether anybody's visited Padgett lately, but how fantastic is it to see those industrial buildings being actually constructed in Padgett now? And I see there's another application lodged there in this report as well. But to actually have those sorts of buildings being constructed is really a fantastic outcome for our community. It's been a long time, I think, between massive construction area down in Padgett. I would also like to make comment on the Serena Sugar Shed, the manager there, the team and the volunteers that deliver day in, 7 days a week, day in, day out on the sugar shed. And I think they need to be congratulated on ability to try something new and to be able to, if it doesn't work, scrap it and then pick up something else and introduce that. And that's exactly what the team's done over the last 12 months. I think COVID, in that respect, local tourism has been good for our council, it's been good for the Sugar Shed. And the feedback that I get in the community from members that have never been to the Sugar Shed before, and it is the Sugar Shed's birthday this year, 15 years is coming up. It's great to see that highlight given from the feedback from locals that didn't know it was there, didn't know what it was all about. So encouraging local people to visit there, I think, has contributed to the good result as well.
Thank you very much. Councillor May. Councillor Mann, speaking for.
Yes, thank you, Worship. Look, I just wanted to mention safety, as I usually do. Really pleasing to see 100% of the monthly action plans completed for this directorate, so congratulations to the director and all staff. And also I just want to touch on Youngler Township local planning framework survey that wasn't able to be completed. 4 people actually made contact with me to say they weren't able to complete that survey, and strategic planning have made arrangements to make sure those people can have their say. They were from Youngler Township and they felt it was very important that they could have their say, so I'm really pleased to report that they are going to be able to have their say.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Move on to the next set of reports from the Engineering and Commercial Infrastructure. The first ECI report is Transport and Drainage for the month of June.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to highlight safety, so 12 incidents, which was a reasonable increase on the previous couple of months, and 3 injuries, which is obviously not good. So unfortunately, in civil operations over the last 5 years, we recorded the most LTIs we've had, so something we continue to focus on. You know, line marking works have been occurring, but probably not seen because they've been occurring at night. So obviously avoiding the traffic. So that's sort of been in the urban area and about to move out to the Pioneer Valley where they'll actually return to doing that in normal daytime hours. You would have previously been aware that we had an issue with the Cotter Hole floodgates where we had leaks occurring. So those repairs have been done and we've also cleaned out the Cotter Hole. So hopefully going forward into the new wet season, that's all set and ready to go. Overall, the transport, drainage and asset management budgets are tracking in line with end of year forecast. Still period 13 impacts to come in, but we think we'll be very close to budget at the end of the year. Just on asset management, we've just completed an internal audit, so we're still waiting on the final report, which is sort of due at the end of the month. So keen to see that and see what actions need to be undertaken. And also the asset valuation plan had been sort of raised previously, so we're due to give a presentation to ELT next week and then come back to council in a briefing in August.
Thanks, Director. Questions? Councillor Bonaventura.
Page 126 under asset management. And I appreciated reading the 7 pages, Your Worship, on asset management. They were very good. Under 5.1 Asset Management Program, strategic goals, it appears we're recruiting 5 or 6 positions. I assume they were in the budget, but just could I get at some stage the annual anticipated costs for this, please?
Director.
Yeah, through Your Worship. Yeah, good pick up, Councillor. So the actual 5 roles have been in the last couple of budgets. So we've converted 2 to full-time equivalent roles. There's still 3 temporary roles, and that's on the basis that we're still reviewing what the forward structure needs to be going forward once we get through, I suppose, the asset cleanse and the maintenance management rollout. So certainly though have been accommodated in the budget, those roles have been in there for the last 3 years. So yeah, thank you.
Another one?
One more, yes, please. On page 128, there's a box in the asset management project update called Property Services Maintenance Rollout. And that's one I would like a little more information on, or maybe just to chat with the director at some stage, to get a better understanding of what is meant by the statement at the bottom that says managing the maintenance with simple assets is a new function for council and it's unknown if it meets all requirements. So I would just like to get some more understanding on that at some stage. If he knows now, that'll be fine, but otherwise.
Is this something that you need to brief the council on?
Sorry, what page was it, Councillor?
It's page 12.
128 under the, it says Property Services Maintenance Rollout. It's one of those projects under Asset Maintenance Project Update, 5.4.
I'm happy to give an answer.
Yes.
So, yeah, just on that, so property service uses a building management system to record all the work activities that occur. And what we want to do is convert that across, so we're using our asset system, the setting, to record all those maintenance activities into the system. So we've had a progressive rollout. We're rolling that out across all the asset owners, currently implemented in water and sewerage, currently implemented civil ops, being rolled out in parks, and then property services the next one to come out. So it's simply a mechanism to say they've got a good system that records activities and what activities are being occurring, but we're not recording that back against the asset in the asset system, which is our point of truth.
That's a good explanation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Further questions? No further questions. It's a good report. Somebody would like to move the adoption then of the Councillor Green, please. Seconded by Councillor May. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, it's particularly pleasing to read that there was a focused effort to repair the backlog of footpath defects, and that this has now significantly reduced that number of defects during the month, with further work on the backlog undertaken as time and budget permits. And also pleasing to read that there were good outcomes on the completion of the Open Drain Special Maintenance Works program that was completed in June, with most routine vegetation maintenance works caught up in most areas, unless they were impeded by continued wet ground conditions. And I'd like to thank the Director for the inclusion of the pictures on page 124 of the maintenance works at the Cod Hole Beach Outlet. It's great to have a visual after seeing what it was like before in person. It's great to see these pictures of what the routine clearance of the outlet actually looks like. So thank you for that. And it's good to know the upgrade and rehabilitation of the Cod Hole Outlet culvert floodgates has been completed. This will now cease the leakage of seawater into the upstream detention basin and obstructing that recreational pathway. So I'm sure this will be a relief to the local residents who did bring their concerns to us here at Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Green. Speaker against? Any other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. The ECI report for waste services. Director.
Thank you, Worship. Again, just starting off with safety, obviously no incidents internally, but you'll note there's been a reduction in contractor incidents over the last few months. Probably one of the highlights is where a vehicle did run over the foot of a employee at Incredible. So obviously trying to continue to work with local contractors to make sure we minimise any incidents that occur. Probably something to highlight, over the last month we've been doing due diligence on our gas monitoring around all our landfill sites, both those operational and closed. We did have an issue at Bayersville where we found that a cap from a bore that had been previously installed some time ago to test the gas levels within Bayersville had been knocked off, so it did cause some issues. Staff were able to respond really quickly and get that fixed. We're still identifying the reason behind that cap being removed. We suspect it may have been in the maintenance of the site on the mowing. So still looking at that, but otherwise all the other sites came back positive and there were no issues. Just highlighting there was 42,000 of in-kind assistance for the year provided for not-for-profits. So a little bit down on our budget, but that's also probably good behaviours from those not-for-profit industries in obviously removing some of the bins that were causing some of the issues across the region over time. Vouchers, so over 83,000 vouchers were used across the financial year, so that's really pleasing to see at a value of about 618,000. So we'll do a little bit more work in relation to number of properties that may have accessed those vouchers. So historically, we've seen that probably around that 65% of properties that access at least one voucher across the year. But we'll do those end of year figures and then assess where that's at. And the budget for waste services continues to track in line with budget, so expecting based on the end of financial year accruals that will be slightly ahead of the budget forecast.
Thank you very much. Director, questions for the Director? Councillor Bonaventura.
Just in relation to the not-for-profit and total waste disposals, it was very pleasing to see that it came in at 42,000 out of our 55,000 allocated. My question is, have we allocated the same amount for each organisation for the 21-22 financial year?
Director.
Yeah, through your worship. Yeah, we basically used the basis of the previous year for allocating the same amounts. if there is an overspend or an underspend, we'll review that and have a look at it, but generally they align pretty much as previous financial year.
Thank you.
Further questions? No further questions? Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor Hassan moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Councillor Hassan.
Thank you, Worship.
Well, as I've said before, Waste Services is one of our largest and most important areas of Council's business, so it's always pleasing to note that there's no lost time injuries again reported for this month. Out of a total of over 307,000 bin lifts for the month, only 42 were missed for the month of June, which again is a massively, really small percentage of the bins that are missed and a really good reflection of the work that's carried out by the teams. Of those, 48 were new services, which again is a really good reflection of the building and development going on within the region. It was great to read in the report that we're welcoming Bruce Thompson as Council's new Resource Recovery Education Officer at the Materials Recovery Facility, and I'm sure that our schools and the general community are looking forward to our education program recommencing in the near future. The Waste Services team reported a focus on recycling in June, and I'd like to highlight the 2-week recycling It's Not Rubbish campaign that they ran online. It had some really good responses, and I'd encourage the community, if you haven't checked that out yet, to have a look at it on Council's Facebook page. Of course, it's really important to know what's going into your recycling bin, because that then reduces the cost to Council of disposing of items that can't be recycled. And finally, it was great to see the drone technology being used across the region to monitor our landfill sites. The contractor utilised a drone to undertake environmental testing at 16 of our landfill sites, which I'm sure is a cost saving to ratepayers and provides a more comprehensive aerial view of the sites.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hassan. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Green speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too would like to welcome Bruce Thompson to the role of the Resource Recovery Education Officer. He's hit the ground running. We were both recently in attendance at the Single-Use Plastics Ban Forum hosted by the Boomerang Alliance on behalf of the Queensland Government. So the first rollout of the single-use plastics ban begins on the 1st of September, and there's a significant piece of work required around the education of organisations and retailers as to what's banned, what are the alternatives, and how can organisations comply with this ban. Whilst Mackay Regional Council does not have an official role in this ban, as it's led by the state government, we do expect that there will be a number of inquiries from the community as this ban is rolled out. And I'm confident Bruce is across the details and will be of assistance not only to the other council departments but to the community in this space.
Thank you very much, Councillor Green. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Bonaventura speaking for.
Yes, Your Worship. I'd just like to note that we've gone above the 8,000 tonne mark again in material disposed of at Hogan's Pocket. And going on the graph, the details in there, it's mainly an increase in household wheelie bin material. I agree it's important that we continue to promote and educate residents to finding ways to reduce their waste output. But I would like to remind residents to look at their own practices and ensure that all recyclables are placed in the yellow litter bin to do their bit to help us. And just in relation to the Director's comment in relation to Old Bayesville landfill and the gas escaping, I look forward to answers to that as to what caused that in next month's report. Thank you, Worship.
Councillor Bonaventura. Are there any other speakers? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. ECI for water. Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. Really pleasing to see no LTIs in the water and sewerage area across the financial year, given the high-risk activities they actually perform. So outstanding achievement then from that overall team. Pleasing to see Ridge Point works proceeding as planned. We had the shutdown this week and things went well, so that's to do the pipe work into the reservoir to separate that continuous flow going through. There's still a little bit more work to go through, but we're well set now going up into the next wet season, hopefully to address the dirty water issues with manganese that continue to occur there. Trade waste, so something we probably don't talk about that often, but completed 264 audits. Very important part of maintaining, the influent into our wastewater treatment plants to make sure it meets the requirements so we don't have regulatory issues. You'll be aware that we did have an issue with some chromium and nickel that caused some biosolids issues, so it's something we're obviously continue to work on, and we'll probably make some modifications around that management plan to target some of those metals going forward. We'll report that back to Council. It was pleasing to see there was a drop in non-residential leaks, so obviously mainly attributed to one major leak at North Queensland Bulk Ports. But you know, it's something like 540 kilolitres of leaks there. So obviously, you know, shout out to my H2O for businesses to make sure they're aligned to that, so they can pick those up nice and early and avoid having to pay for leaks and water that are not being used. Other than I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Director, questions for the Director? Councillor May.
Just in regards to the leaks and, you know, the amount of water, and I think you've got to put this in perspective, it's potable water that's leaking, so we got 21,000 kilolitres of water. What steps do we take to be able to try and reduce that throughout the treatment process, but then as the end of line users, how can we improve that situation?
Director.
Yeah, to your worship, I don't know, that's the $1 million question, council, that we've been debating internally for a long time. So given we have a mechanism there with my H2O that people can actually be alerted onto that, and you know, we try and obviously with non-residential so businesses try and get them to follow up on their leaks. Sometimes it's the level of the leak, and sometimes it's an awareness that the leak might be getting larger, and sometimes there's difficulty in trying to find it. So if you're at Hay Point and there's a big area, you've got one bulk meter coming in, and then trying to find where that leak may be in a complicated system internally can be the issue. But yeah, there might be options around trying to work with about some sub-metering internally so they can look at different lines and that type of thing. So continue to try and to look at the options we can to obviously reduce that, because in effect it's you know, wasting water. That's, you know, something that we still have to supply, treat, distribute, give it to the customer, and then it's not being used. So yeah, not sure of the answer.
No, that's fine,
the answer
yeah.
that you're looking for, but
Yeah, I just have one more question.
Councillor May.
So just while you're going, Director, so out of the amount of water, and I don't know whether it's reported here or not, and I'm happy for you to take this on notice, is how much water would be leaked from our side of the system? You know, like, you know, pipes in the ground, in the road reserves, those sorts of things.
I think we.
yes, good question, Councillor. It varies year to year, but we're probably in the 12 to 14%. So it is still a fair amount of water. So there's a little bit of work for us to do around that. So we do have district meeting, DMA, district metered areas where we can actually start to align what the water is going into a suburb, and then summing all the meters of the properties to see if we do have a differential there. And that should be a mechanism for us to go and try and track that down. But again, it's a difficult issue around that. There will also be some metering issues in meters reading high and low. So it's potentially something where we want to get back into and really try and target, get that down. Industry best practice is probably 6 to 8%. Okay. So there is an ability for us to try and reduce the number of leaks. There's obviously a cost that comes with that, so there's a fine balance, but it's certainly something that we're focused on trying to address.
Thank you.
Further questions? No further questions. Would somebody like to move the report's adoption? Councillor May moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So a good report from the Director, and good answers to questions as well. I just really want to pull out a couple of highlights. I suppose that the no LTIs is fantastic, particularly in a labour-intensive department where you're actually working, you know, doing a lot of work on the ground. So that's a fantastic result for the month and the year. The water consumption is decreased slightly. So we've had a little bit of winter rain, which is good, and it takes that pressure off of using too much water. We've talked about the water leaks and how how important that is, I suppose, to be encouraging our residents and our businesses to sign up to My H2O. We exceeded our target for My H2O this year and managed to get up to 16,657 people registered on that. But there's 44,000 of water connections, so there's still a bit of a way to go. So if we can continue to work on that, that would be absolutely fantastic. And I think just that the number of work orders that are generated in the water and sewerage area, approximately 3,500 for the month. That's an enormous amount of work that our staff deliver on a monthly basis. So let's keep up the good work.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor May. Speaker against? Are there any other speakers? No other speakers? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Any against? The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. So that was water. And let's move on to Org Services then. Org Services monthly review for June. Acting Director, Francisco.
Good morning, Your Worship. Thank you on behalf of Kylie Lamb, the Director of Organisational Services. I'm pleased to present the monthly report, Organisational Services. Safety continues to be a focus of the department with no LTIs, and even though we are predominantly office-based department, we do have maintenance teams in property services and in adult gadgets, so we still have those associated with that. And also that being office-based, people tend to be a little complacent about the risks of the workplace, so it's still pleasing to see no LTIs. The budget was adopted on the 23rd of June, and the operational report for the financial year 21-22 was also approved, along with 12-month action plans for each of the programs. The Elevate Operational Leadership Pilot Program was completed in June. Positive feedback was received, and the next steps around modifying that pilot to suit, and we'll roll that out to all program managers and coordinators over the next 12 to 18 months. The Rowdy Pool's undergone major renovation works, including tiling around the pool shell top, concrete slab replacement around the main and children's pool, change to the chair hoister, bathroom renovations and earthing around the pool and equipment, and the photos in the report I think show a very good outcome of that facility. The financial year means a busy time for the procurement team. Nearly 5,000 invoices processed in the last month, which is quite a high workload for that team. And information service offers once again a high level of consumer satisfaction in terms of 99%, and having been a recipient of a number of those services in the last month, it's quite a pleasing service and well delivered. The customer service team again achieved outstanding customer satisfaction results. 96% of our surveys indicating that they were satisfied with the service provided. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Acting Director. Are there questions for the Acting Director? Councillor Mann.
The report highlights staff vacancies in shared services, and I wondered how we're going with the recruitment process. And the second part is, while we highlight the customer satisfaction levels, which is really important, given the resources with others, given the challenges with staff resourcing, how are we going with staff health and wellbeing?
Director, can you answer those?
So in terms of the vacancies, those are being recruited at the moment, so it's a bit complicated by the fact that some of our staff have been on long service leave, so we've had temporary people in and then had some people on unplanned leave. So we're in the process of finalising those, and also the program managers have adopted an approach of employing a part-time person on 1 day a week, who's able to flex up and down for the remainder of the week, and that's proving to be successful, and we may add to that. So that'll help us cover all those gaps in capability as we go through recruiting people to those roles. And from the wellbeing perspective, there's a very strong focus of the program manager around the wellbeing of that program, and she's conducted a number of activities to ensure that people feel valued. And even though we've had vacancies, that putting those support mechanisms in place to ensure that people aren't feeling overly stressed by trying to keep up the work that everybody else has been doing.
Thank you. Further questions? Councillor Bonaventura.
Just on page 187, and that's that graph showing our monthly recruitment activity. And I note the applicants applying to fill our vacancy is on a steady decline from almost 400 in January down to 221 in June. So the question is twofold. Does this raise any concerns with the Director? And can I get the Director's idea of what is causing the decline in applicant numbers?
Director.
Good worship. Yes, the numbers are declining, and it's not unexpected given that the post-COVID work activity on other businesses is now ramping back up, and other organisations are now filling their vacancies. So we're in a much more competitive work environment. I'm happy to say that that competitive work environment seems to be in Queensland, and we are getting a lot of applicants now coming from interstate. So whilst the numbers are down, I would suggest that the quality and the sourcing of those candidates isn't problematic at this point.
Thank you. Councillor Bonaventura, you had another one?
Yeah, further question. If you look at the graph on staff turnover, page 187 also, while I'm happy that our annual turnover rate has been sitting between 14 and 16% for the last year, and we are well below the Human Resources Institute of 2018 report that found regional areas have a turnover of 19.3%. My question is this 2018 data related to councils or all employment in regional areas? And the second part of that is if it is related to regional areas, do we have any way of checking our numbers against other regional councils to give a much better benchmark of our position?
Director.
Through your worship, yes, the data that was collected is for all regional areas. Our ability to assess that as a local government, the data's not really there for that, but I'm happy to take that question on notice and do further research.
Thank you. Further questions? No further questions? All right, would somebody like to move then the report's adoption? Councillor Mann moves, seconded by Councillor Green, but I'll let you speak first, Councillor Mann.
So I want to highlight safety again. So 129 safety interactions, that's huge for a month, and really shows our focus on safety. 100% of monthly action plans completed, which is also really pleasing, and really the big highlight, no LTIs since 2017, 2018. That doesn't happen by accident. It actually is, safety is everyone's business, and it requires everyone in this organisation to do their part. And I would be disappointed if people felt that it wasn't their role to look out to be part of the safety focus. I would ask the Director to pass on our thanks to staff in this area for their focus on safety. Shared services also play an integral role in what they deliver and the services that they complete, which are many and varied. They continue to deliver frontline services despite the challenges, and they continue to try to meet KPIs that have not been adjusted to reflect change conditions, increased workloads, staff challenges, all that sort of thing. I would also like to mention information services, who are experiencing their own challenges there with staff and, I guess, experienced staff as well. And they managed to make sure that all our IT applications were available for 100% of the time, which is massive in an organisation this size. I would ask the Director to pass on thanks to all of the staff within the Directorate for their continued focus on delivering for our community.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Speaker against? Any other speakers? Councillor Green speaking for.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes. I'd like to apply a sport and recreation lens to the report and highlight the significant increase of visitors to the Mark. 148,000 attended the facilities in the 2020-2021 financial year, which is up 35,000 visits from the previous financial year. So the reputation of this facility continues to grow, with elite squads now choosing to also hold training camps at the Mark, and the likes of Olympics athletics competitor Rowan Browning completed a 3-week training stint at the Mark with coach Andrew Murphy in the previous year. So this segues nicely into a plug for the free Olympic Games community event that has been organised for this Sunday, the 1st of August at the Mark from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. There's no better location to watch the Tokyo Games live and feel the Olympic spirit with your community. So bring a blanket or a chair and watch the free live streamed competitions, or bring your togs, have a quick cool dip after you've planted some trees for National Tree Day on the Blue Water Trail beforehand, and then come and have a snag and cheer on your favourite Olympians. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Green. Are there any other speakers? Are the speakers will put the motion? Those in favour? Any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. So, councillors, there's no receipt of petitions. There's no tenders. There's no notified motions today. There's nobody in the public gallery. In late business, there's been some questions councillors raised around the COVID aspects of the NRL game in Mackay tomorrow. Just wanted to assure council and hopefully we'll assure the public later that these teams have been in their own COVID bubble in Brisbane for many weeks now. They are flying up in their own aircraft. They will be transported in a bus to the stadium, and they will leave immediately after the game. So they're not staying here, they're flying back to Brisbane, and that's all in their own aircraft. The airport have organised their own COVID bubble around that aircraft's arrival and departure, and the associated bus journeys that will deliver from that. So, in my view, it has been extremely well handled in terms of the COVID bubble around these games, and I'm very confident that everybody who's working very hard to keep us safe in terms of COVID and trying to keep COVID out of our community have done a very good job so far in this one. So, in our view, the community is safe from having these teams in Mackay. And the only other late business that I've got, councillors, is that it's the Deputy Mayor's birthday today. So, happy birthday, Councillor May.
Thank you.
And I know you'll probably have a few celebratory drinks later on. So.
Possibly.
Further late business. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was honoured to be asked to be part of the judging panel at the Mackay 2021 competition at Split Spaces on Sunday night. For those that don't know, Mackay is a 72-hour hacking event that brings together our brightest minds to find innovative ways to hack mets and mining problems using technology 4.0. There were diesel fitters, doctors, engineers from across the spectrum of that discipline and business minds, all coming together to solutionise real-world problems. Congratulations to the winners, who were Team Autopilot, who walked away with a cash prize of $2,500 for their concept of an automated pit stop style refuelling station for heavy equipment in mines. And as a former operator, I tell you what, to not have to get out and get covered in grease is a nice idea. Council was a major sponsor of the event, and we provided $5,000 prize pool in recognition of our support of innovation and entrepreneurship in our region. And given our region produces more patents than any other anywhere else in Australia, shows that this is a program that's worth supporting. And congratulations to Deb Allen and her team at Split Spaces for running yet another successful Mackay event. I'm really looking forward to the 2022 event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Further late business. Councillor May.
Just two things, Your Worship. Serena Show was on this Saturday and Sunday, the rodeo on the Saturday night, and we've got a junior rodeo on the Sunday throughout the day. So all tickets must be purchased online. So anybody in the community wishing to attend the Serena Show, jump on the website there and purchase your tickets. Should be a great event, it normally is, and yeah, hopefully, given that there was no show last year, I think it'll be well patronised. The other late business that I would like to raise is around the NRL game, but really we'll worry about congratulating how well the game's gone after it's been played, but really around congratulating our staff. Councillors may or may not know, but this interaction of negotiating for this game started on Friday last week. And here we are 1 week later about to deliver that game. So the staff have done and will be doing a tremendous job in making sure that this game, as you said, Mr Mayor, delivered with a COVID-safe plan. But there's the Director of Development Services, the Manager of Economic Development and our Acting Manager of Property Services have really done an outstanding job in getting us into the position to be able to win that negotiation and then having to deliver that tomorrow night. So I just wanted to give them a bit of a shout out and say thank you very much.
Well said. Thanks very much, Councillor May. Councillor Bonaventura, late business.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, I would like to thank firstly Councillor Balla in his absence for raising the issue, but more so yourself, Mayor, for ensuring that business arising out of previous minutes is included in the agenda. So this now gives all councillors and the public clear transparency and detailed answers to questions that were asked in these chambers, and it's good to see. So thank you very much, Your Worship.
Thanks, Councillor Bonaventura. Further late business? No further late business? Councillors, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 items of confidential reports to be considered. They're all fairly well straightforward in my view. Is there any reason to go into? No reason? Okay, let's move forward then and adopt the items presented in your confidential agenda. 17.1 is the Legal Services Monthly Report for June. Somebody like to move? Councillor Bonaventura moves, seconded by Councillor Mann. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. 17.2 is the draft minutes of the Invest Mackay Events and Conference Attraction Program Advisory Committee meeting on the 14th of June. Somebody like to move? Councillor Townsend moves, seconded by Councillor Green. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. 17.3, the approved sponsorship under the Invest Mackay Events and Conference Attraction Program for June. Somebody like to move? Councillor Mann moves, seconded by Councillor Hassan. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. 17.4, the approved concessions under the Facilitating Development in the Mackay region under the policy for June 2021. Somebody like to move? Councillor Englert moves, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Those in favour? Any against? Motion's carried. Thank you. And that's it, councillors. So thank you very much, councillors. Thank you, CEO. Thank you, directors. I declare the meeting closed.